Summary of The Quiet American by Greene. The book starts in Vietnam in the 1950s, when the conflict between French oppression and Vietnamese communism was at its worst. English reporter Thomas Fowler, who is middle-aged, lives in Saigon with Phuong He, who used to be his girlfriend. Fowler is waiting for Alden Pyle, the young American for whom Phuong left Fowler. A police officer finally calls Fowler into the station after hours of waiting. There, Fowler learns that Pyle has been killed and thrown under a bridge. Officer Vigot asks Fowler in a strange way what he knows about Pyle and his death. Fowler doesn't tell Vigot much, but in private, he remembers his friendship with Pyle and says that Pyle, who worked for the US government, was responsible for at least 50 deaths in Vietnam. After that, most of the book is told through flashbacks. Fowler doesn't forget meeting Pyle in a bar. Pyle is young, good-looking, and quiet, which is not like most of the Americans Fowler knew in Vietnam. Pyle works for the Economic Aid Mission, an American group that works to improve Vietnam's economy. York Harding was a political thinker who agreed with Pyle that Vietnam and other Eastern countries needed a third force, which was not colonialism or communism. Fowler thinks Pyle is naive, but he also finds his boyishness cute for some reason. Fowler and Phuong, who are still dating at this point, go to the Continental Hotel soon after to drink and dance. That night, Fowler thinks about how his friendship with Phuong has been rough. She is a lot younger than him, and her sister, Miss Hay, is mad at him because he can't marry Phuong because Fowler is married to Helen Fowler in England. Fowler is shocked to see Pyle at the hotel and meets him. Pyle, Fowler, and Phuong then go to the chalet, which is another local bar. Pyle, who doesn't speak French very well, asks Phuong to dance in a nice way. Even though Pyle isn't very good at dancing, Fowler feels old and rude when he sees how brave Pyle is. Fowler leaves Saigon for Phat Diem a few days after Pyle meets Phuong. It is said that communists have attacked and bombed this town. In Phat Diem, Fowler stays with the lieutenant, a well-trained soldier who shows him proof of terrible violence and damage. Fowler is reminded that he probably won't be able to post any information about Phat Diem because all news reports are strictly censored. During his time with the lieutenant, Fowler tells him that he doesn't believe in God anymore and doesn't trust many parts of his Christian faith. Pyle goes to see Fowler while he is living in Phat Diem. Fowler is shocked to learn that Pyle has found him in just a few days. He tells Fowler that he wants to be honest with him because they're best friends. Pyle has fallen in love with Phuong. The way Pyle acts makes Fowler very angry. He thinks Pyle thinks he'll win Phuong because he's younger and better looking. After less than a day, Pyle leaves Fowler. Fowler tells his old friend Pietri that he's going to go back to England before he goes back to Saigon. A few weeks after meeting Pyle, Fowler gets together with Pyle and Phuong to talk about their relationship problems. In French, Pyle tells Fowler to tell Phuong that he loves her and wants to live with her. Fowler does this. Pyle and Fowler debate about how much they love Phuong while she stays quiet. It's not true that Fowler says he's staying in Vietnam and splitting up with his wife. No, Phuong says all of a sudden. When Pyle says this, he knows that Phuong picked Fowler over him and leaves. A few weeks later, Fowler leaves Saigon to go to a gathering put on by the Cadaists, a political and religious group led by the mysterious General The. The Cadaists fight against both the French colonists and the communists who live in the area. When Fowler meets Pyle at the fair, he is friendly and polite to him. Pyle asks Fowler to take him back to Saigon, but their car runs out of gas on the way. Fowler and Pyle get out of their car because they think they can get more gas at one of the French bases nearby. Fowler leads Pyle over the walls of one of these fortresses to find two Vietnamese guards who don't say or do anything. Fowler tells Pyle that they can pretty much get around Vietnam without any problems since they speak disinterested English. Pyle is able to take one of the guards' guns, and he and Fowler talk about Phuong, their sexual flaws, and York Harding's mysterious third force, which Pyle thinks General The represents. Late at night, Fowler and Pyle hear gunshots and cries of pain. The Viet Minh are striking a nearby French stronghold. All of a sudden, they hear the sound of a speaker outside their fortress. It looks like the Viet Minh have found Fowler's car and are telling the two guards to bring down their English-speaking guests. Pyle quickly takes the guard's gun away and gives it to Fowler. The two of them sneak down from the fort and away from the Viet Minh. Fowler hurts his leg badly on the way down, and he almost dies when the Viet Minh fire a rocket at the fort. As Pyle bravely drags Fowler away from the fort, he tells him that he will find help. For a few hours, Pyle finds a French patrol and takes Fowler to safety. Fowler insults Pyle and tells him to leave him for dead. Fowler was sent home from the hospital with a clear limp a few days after his adventure at the fort. When he sees Phuong again, he tells him that his wife sent him a message. Helen tells Fowler in the message that she won't give him a divorce and that she thinks he'll get tired of Phuong soon. Phuong and Fowler smoke opium together, and Fowler tells her a lie that Helen has agreed to the split. Fowler gets a tip from Dominguez, who is a reliable source, that he should go to a building that Mr. Cho and Mr. Hang own. Fowler finds plastic molds in the building. Hong tells him that Pyle sent these to be processed. Fowler doesn't know what Pyle is up to. When Fowler meets Pyle again, Pyle has found out that Fowler lied about getting divorced. A sister of Phuong named Miss Hay, who speaks English, found out that Fowler had failed to get Helen to leave him. Fowler happily admits that he lied and tells Pyle that lies and deception are the only things he can use against a younger, better-looking guy. Pyle says Fowler is using Phuong to get sex with him. Fowler says that Phuong is old enough to choose what she wants, even though he is only using her body. After 2 weeks have passed since Pyle's death, Fowler goes to see Viget. Fowler is adamant that he is not engaged, which means he is not publicly involved with either side in Vietnam. Viget is adamant that Fowler has already chosen a side. In his own mind, Fowler believes that he is a prisoner who is in pain and has a life sentence. The story goes back to a few weeks after Pyle finds out Fowler was lying. Phuong spends less and less time with Fowler and more time with Pyle. Dominguez tells Fowler one day to look for a story at the Saigon Pond in the city center. When Fowler goes there, he sees a big explosion. Also there, Mr. Hung tells Fowler that the moldings he saw in his building were used to set off explosions all over Saigon. Hung says that all he's doing is his job as a maker, which is to sell his services to anyone who pays the most. The next time Fowler goes back to his house, Phuong has already left. His sister, Miss Hay, is working as a typist at the American legation, where Pyle works. He runs there to find her. She tells him Pyle is working from home, which leads Fowler to believe that he is with Phuong. Fowler cries for the first time in years when he is by himself. Fowler leaves Saigon and heads north to report on how the war is getting worse. Innocent civilian areas are bombed by French planes, and he talks to Captain Truan, a French soldier, who tells him that France is doomed to lose the Vietnam War. Fowler tries to lay with a prostitute, but his thoughts of Phuong are too strong for him to act in bed. After going back to Saigon, Fowler meets Pyle, who tells him that he and Phuong are getting married in the US. Fowler briefly feels sorry for Phuong because she will be lost in a new country. He tells Pyle that he should look out for Phuong's best interests and not side with General The. In addition, he says that Pyle planned the bike bombing, which Pyle does not deny. After a few weeks, there is another bombing in an area of Saigon that used to be a lot of French colonies. Killing women and their kids is common. When the explosion happens, Fowler is going through the area and sees Pyle. He scolds him for not caring about people's lives at all. Pyle says he planned the bombing to get rid of some dangerous British officials, but he didn't expect to kill anyone else as well. We flash forward once more to the time after Pyle's death. When Fowler sees Viget again, he tells him that York Harding killed Pyle, though from a long range. Viget asks Fowler more questions about Pyle's death, but Fowler says he doesn't know anything. In spite of what he just told Viget, Fowler thinks that he really did see Pyle on the night he died after Viget leaves. A short time after the blast, Fowler goes back to Hang in Chow's warehouse and tells them that he killed babies. Hang gives Fowler a nod and says that they'll take care of Pyle soon. Hang tells Fowler to set up a dinner for Pyle at the View Moulin between 8:30 and 9:30. Hang tells Howler before he goes, one has to take sides. As long as one wants to stay human. Fowler asks Pyle to come to his apartment. Fowler thanks Pyle for saving his life, but he says again that Pyle is stupid for using York Harding to make terrorist laws. Pyle is adamant that the Vietnamese who died did so for a good reason. Fowler does what Hang asked and asks Pyle to dinner. Pyle says yes and shows up. As planned, Fowler meets Pyle for dinner the next night, but instead he goes to the movies and then walks to the View Moulin. Fowler meets Bill Granger, a rude American writer, there. Granger tells Fowler that his son has polio. As they part ways, Fowler isn't sure what happened to Pyle that night. The last part is said after Pyle has died. Fowler and Phuong are back together, and Helen has finally given Fowler's divorce. Granger's own child is now healthy again after having polio. Fowler knows that things are much better for him now that Pyle is dead. Yet, he is still suspicious that Phuong loves Pyle and America more than he loves him. He wishes there was someone to whom he could express his regret and say, "I'm sorry."
About the author. Graham Greene was born in Hertfordshire into a well-known family there. He was a heavy drinker and a devoted Catholic from a very young age. Most of his main characters also had these traits. Greene studied at Oxford and tried out communism there, but he later decided against it. He was sad and lonely at Oxford, but he worked hard at writing poems and short stories. He worked as a reporter for a number of English and Irish publications after he graduated. His fourth book, Stamboul Train, 1932, was his first big hit. A very popular adventure yarn, Stamboul Train sparked Greene to write a long string of skilled but lowbrow comedies, including Our Man in Havana, 1958, and The Third Man, 1949. Greene was hired to work for MI6, the UK's spy agency, roughly the same as the CIA in the US, when he was in his early 30s. As an MI6 spy, Greene went to many places around the world, like Cuba, Liberia, Mexico, Vietnam, and Haiti, to report on how people lived there. Even though Greene wasn't really in danger on these tasks, they made him want to write spy and mystery books like The Quiet American. Greene's most famous work, The Power and the Glory, 1940, was influenced by his trips to Mexico. He died in 1991.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.